For the first time since Hurricane Ida, New Orleans has gone 13 days without a homicide.
As Chris Welty reports, other categories of major violent crimes, though, are also down.
New Orleans is on track to have less homicides than last year. So far, the city has gone 13 days, the longest stretch since Hurricane Ida without a murder.
It's certainly a positive sign for the community and the city.
According to the Metropolitan Crime Commission, year to date, there have been 213 homicides compared to 262 last year.
We're not only seeing a reduction in homicides, but across the board in violent crime, as well as shootings, armed robberies, and carjackings.
Still, more people have been murdered in 2022 and 2023 compared to the 5-year low of 113 in 2019.
But we still have, a long way to go to get back to, the really positive number of 2019, that significant low.
Orleans District Attorney Jason Williams says although the crime stats are trending in the correct direction, he believes there's still a lot of work to do.
You got to have prevention, which is outside of the criminal justice system. You've got to have policing, robust policing throughout all communities, not just the well-heeled communities. And you got to have prosecution of the cases that they make.
Williams says strategies put in place with his office, as well as NOPD, under former interim Superintendent Michelle Woodfork and Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick, are working. NOPD and the DA's office are focusing on where crime is peaking and shutting down businesses known for crime.
It's important to look at those force multipliers because they augment the woman power, manpower issues we're having in the police department and what you see in the court system as well.
Williams maintains his office is working with partners on all levels to build stronger cases while focusing on taking repeat offenders off the streets. Wednesday, he participated in a roundtable discussion with leaders throughout New Orleans on addressing youth violence.
We're going after the adults that are pulling young people into lives of crime, whether it's the stealing of guns that have been left in cars or the stealing of cars. We're trying to go after the adults.
Williams is hopeful reduced crime stats will continue into the new year as Governor-elect Jeff Landry is committing more troopers in the city and assistance from the Attorney General's office.
Having more bodies in this fight is going to be a very big deal, and I think the criminal element is going to be paying attention to it.
In New Orleans, Chris Welty, Fox 8 Local First.